Hey guys, I hope all of you are doing fine. And today in the second class, we are going to discuss dilutions, right? We discussed about materials yesterday, and today we are going to talk about dilutions. Now, dilutions is one of the most important classes when it comes to approaching fragrances. In this particular fragrance, for example, Terra de Hermes, the most primary dilution which you have to understand is one material called as Evernil. Only one material. Okay. If you remember, there are some oils. Yesterday we went through the materials. There are two oils in it: black pepper oil and cardamom oil. Now, these two oils are much more expensive than Evernil. These two probably are the, after rose and jasmine and other more expensive oils. I think these two are one of the most expensive oils used in modern perfumery: black pepper oil and cardamom oil. But if you remember yesterday's class, I specifically asked you, if you want to make something like Terra de Hermes, you should not buy these oils diluted. Why? Because there is only one product in the complete perfume which has to be diluted perfectly to make the accord. One material, which is Evernil. Now, Evernil is a powder which is used to give the effect of oak moss, in a way you can say. One of the classic materials used in perfumery. There is another material called as labdamate. Labdamate is also a good material, but to give a particular effect is of oak moss, it is to give a particular effect of oak moss, then Evernil is probably one of the best materials you can find. And these days, literally every deodorant, every body spray, literally every company is using this molecule, Evernil. A very salty, um, exotic, salty kind of a note. That is what this one material is all about, Evernil. Now, there are a couple of details which you have to understand when it comes to dilutions. Of course, you will have the formula in the fourth class, but there's something very important I want you to understand when it comes to dilutions. The modern perfumery, especially from the late 80s, 90s, dilution of powders became the most important thing for every fine perfumer. Right. We are not talking about soaps and shampoos and all these things because there is a very open format to make those things. But in particular, we are talking about fine perfumery. Right. So dilution of powders become the most important thing when it comes to fine perfumery. So most of the 90s was covered by materials like, even 80s, coumarin, tuna lead. Okay, you have to learn how to dilute them and make an accord. And these materials will make all those kind of fresh fougères with CPD, cyclopentadiecanolone, or exaltone, which is sold in the market. If you know how to combine these three materials, then you literally can make most of the best fragrances which came out in the 90s. But the delicacy or the intricacies involved in diluting the powders is what is going to make you stand out from every other product available in the market. And that's the reason why I ask all of you to always dilute your own products. If you remember in the first class, I specified to buy Evernail undiluted, dilute and get the powder of it. Okay, because this is a creative process. So these dilutions of coumarin, tunalid, and CPD, of course, you don't have to get it diluted in some way. So these 3-4 materials are the key to making every fresh fougère kind of a note in the 90s usually. Only these 3-4 materials. In the same way, approaching something like Terra de Hermes, you have to dilute only one material, that is Evernail. Now, before you get the formula, I want you to do an exercise, and I really want you to concentrate on it. Take Evernail with your diluent or your solvent as DPG, dipropylene glycol, and I want you to make 3 different samples of it, E1, E2, and E3. Right? In the first one, 5% in DPG. The second one, 10% in DPG. The third one, 15% in DPG. I hope I don't have to explain how to dilute it. You basically take 5 grams of powder and say 95 grams of DPG. That's 5% dilution, right? So, or just calculate, don't waste your materials, because these are still exercises. So when you have these 3 things ready, you will understand how we are making the formula. Okay, you have to understand how we are doing it, because see, the point you're attending my classes is because literally these days people who have just finished a course and they have started teaching it, most of the schools today. But what the difference I want you to find with my class is how you're approaching something. That's the process of approaching is the most important thing. So you have to really practice these things. Otherwise, what's the point? I can just give you the formula, which was not my objective. My objective is for you to make sure you know what you're doing first, right? So kindly dilute these 3 products in DPG, and hopefully in tomorrow's class, we will continue with our basic accord. We will use patchouli, some other things, but these 3 things have to be ready for tomorrow's class. In the 4th class, we will understand the formula, and in the 5th class will be the Q&A session, right? So the key to understanding today's class was dilutions, and the key for taking this whole time of yours is to make sure you understand, don't buy diluted products. You have to learn what these 5%, 10%, and 15% of dilution is doing. Okay, you have to learn why we are using a very expensive material like black pepper oil, very expensive material like cardamom oil without any dilutions. Because if you buy those things diluted, you will never be able to make something like Terra de Hermes maybe. Okay. So this was today's class, and I'm going to see you tomorrow. Take very good care of yourself. Bye-bye.